Jesus had just risen. Death could not hold him. The tomb was empty. And in that moment, when everything looked like victory, something happened that almost no one truly understands. The first person to see him alive was not one of the apostles. It was a woman who had followed him, who loved him, and who was completely broken. Mary Magdalene. She came to the tomb, expecting to find a body, but she found something else. She saw him. She saw Jesus of Nazareth, standing there, alive, breathing, real, after everything. And in that instant, everything changed. Her pain, her tears, her desperation turned into something stronger, hope. But just as she was about to step closer, to reach for him, to hold on to him, Jesus said something that has puzzled millions for centuries. Do not touch me. Why? Why would someone who had just conquered death refuse the touch of someone who loved him? Was it distance? Was it something physical? Or was there something deeper, something no one ever explained clearly? Today, we're going to uncover the real reason. And once you see it, you won't just understand that moment. You'll understand something that can completely change the way you see the resurrection, and even more, the way you relate to God. Friday, something happened that no one was ready to face. Jesus of Nazareth had been crucified, beaten, humiliated, nailed to a cross until he died. And then he was placed in a tomb. After that came Saturday. Silence. An entire day where nothing happened, where heaven seemed quiet, where the promises felt like they had stopped. And that silence was not just any silence. It was the kind of silence you can feel, the kind of silence where everything you believed starts to shake. Because Jesus had spoken, he had promised, he said something was coming. But now, there were no signs, no answers, no movement, just waiting, an uncomfortable waiting, a waiting where faith is tested, because there are moments when God seems silent, not because he's doing nothing, but because he's doing something you still cannot see. His disciples didn't understand. Everything they believed, everything they hoped for, felt like it was over. And among them, there was a woman who didn't just follow him. She had been changed by him. Mary Magdalene. She wasn't just another follower. She was someone who had experienced his power up close, someone who had been set free, healed, restored, and now everything felt lost. That's why, very early Sunday morning, while it was still dark, she went to the tomb, not with hope, but with pain. She was going to see a body, to say goodbye, to close a story. She didn't understand. But when she arrived, something wasn't right. The stone had been rolled away. The tomb was open, and the body was gone. The place where he had been laid was empty. And in that moment, the pain didn't disappear. It grew, because now she had not only lost Jesus, she didn't even know where he was. Confused, she ran to tell the disciples. They came, they saw when they left. But she didn't. Mary stayed, alone, outside the tomb, crying. No answers, no understanding, not knowing that she was about to experience the most important moment of her life. Mary, through her tears, leaned forward and looked inside the tomb. And then she saw something she never expected. Two angels, dressed in white, sitting where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and one at the foot. And they said to her, "Woman, why are you crying?" John 20:13. But Mary was not thinking about angels. She was not thinking about miracles. There was only one thought in her mind: they have taken my Lord away, and I don't know where they have put him. John 20:13. And as she said this, she turned around, and in that moment, she saw him, standing there, just a few steps away. It was Jesus, alive, but she didn't recognize him. Her eyes could see him, but her mind could not process it, because no one expects to see alive someone they watched die. Then Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" John 20:15. And she, thinking he was the gardener, and said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go get him." John 20:15. She didn't know. She was speaking to him, until Jesus said just one word, "Mary." John 20:16. And in that instant, everything changed. It wasn't his face, it wasn't his appearance, it was his voice, the way he said her name, the way only he could, because it wasn't just her name, it was how he said it, the tone, the closeness, the same voice that once called her when no one else did, the same voice that restored her when her life was broken. And in that moment, she didn't just recognize who he was, she remembered who she had been before him and who she was now because of him. And then she knew. Rabboni, which means teacher. John 20:16. The one who had died was alive, right in front of her, real. And in that moment, all her pain, all her tears, all her desperation broke apart to make way for something far greater, a certainty that would change history forever. And in that moment, when she finally recognized him, when she understood it wasn't a dream, it wasn't an illusion, it wasn't a memory, it was really him, Jesus, alive, risen. Mary reacted the way anyone would. She stepped closer, with urgency, with emotion, with a heart overflowing, because after everything, she had lost him. She had seen him die. She had watched them take him down from the cross, wrap his body, and place him in a tomb. And now, he was there, right in front of her, alive again. It was too much to process, too much to understand in just a few seconds, because her mind was still at the cross, still in the pain, still in the loss. And suddenly, all of that was breaking apart, because what she was seeing was not just a memory, not just a hope, it was reality. Jesus was there, and when someone you love comes back from the dead, you don't think, you don't analyze, you just react. The natural response was to reach for him, to touch him, to hold him, to cling to him, as if she never wanted to lose him again. But right in that moment, Jesus said something that stopped everything. "Do not touch me," John 20:17. And everything shifted, because that sentence didn't fit. It didn't make sense. Not after the resurrection, not after seeing him again. Why say that? Why create distance in the moment she had been waiting for? Was it rejection? Was it something physical? Was there something about his body that couldn't be touched? But that didn't make sense, because later others would touch him. So then, why not Mary? What was really happening in that moment? Because what Jesus said was not random. It was not improvised. It was not a minor detail. It was intentional. A sentence full of meaning. A sentence that, if misunderstood, can completely change the way we see the resurrection. The phrase was there, clear, direct, but incomplete if not understood correctly. Because in reality, Jesus said more, "Do not touch me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father." John 20:17. And for years, many people have tried to understand it. But not every interpretation is correct. Some have thought that Jesus' body could not be touched at that moment, as if it were fragile, untouchable, different in that way, but that doesn't fit. Because even that same day, other women came to him and touched him. They fell at his feet and held on to them, Matthew 28:9. And later, Jesus himself allowed others to touch him. So, it wasn't a physical limitation. Others have thought it was rejection, as if Jesus was creating distance, as if he no longer wanted closeness. But that doesn't make sense either, because if there's one thing Jesus showed after the resurrection, it was closeness. He appeared, he spoke, he walked with them, he even ate with them. He wasn't pulling away from people. So then, if it wasn't physical and it wasn't rejection, what was really happening? Why that phrase, at that exact moment? Because Mary was not just anyone. She was close to him. She had been transformed. She loved him deeply. And still, Jesus set a boundary, but not a boundary the way we understand it, a boundary with purpose. Because what was happening there was not just a reunion, it was a transition, a shift, a moment where something was no longer going to be the way it used to be. And if we don't understand that, the phrase "do not touch me" will always feel cold, strange, even contradictory. But when you see it clearly, everything starts to make sense. And then, everything starts to come together. What Jesus said was not an emotional reaction. It was a statement, a signal that something had changed. Jesus was not talking about physical contact. He was talking about relationship. Because what was happening in that moment was not just that he had come back. It was that everything had changed. Before the cross, the disciples could walk with him, see him, touch him, follow him physically. But now, the relationship would not be the same, because Jesus did not rise again to remain on earth, but to ascend to the Father, to open a new way, to begin a new season, a season where it would no longer be about having him physically present, but about believing in him even when you cannot see him. That's why that Mary wanted to do something completely human, to hold on, to keep that moment, to not let go, as if saying, "Now that you're here, I'm not losing you again." But Jesus did not come to restore the old relationship. He came to transform it, because if Mary held on to that physical version of Jesus, she would miss what was coming next. A deeper relationship, a more real one, a closer one, even without seeing him. Because what Jesus was introducing was not a relationship based on physical presence. It was something far greater, a relationship that is not limited by distance, not limited by time, not limited by whether you can see him or not. Because up until that moment, the disciples depended on having Jesus near, seeing him, hearing him physically. But what was coming now was a relationship that could be with you, anywhere, at any time, with no limits, no barriers, no need to have him right in front of you. And that reveals something even deeper, because until that moment, the relationship with God had always been limited to places, to moments, to visible experiences. But what Jesus was opening was access, direct access, no intermediaries, no distance, a relationship. That doesn't depend on where you are, but on who you believe in. And that changes everything, because now you don't need to see in order to believe. You believe and then you see. That's why those words were not cold, they were necessary. It was as if Jesus was telling her, "Don't try to hold on to me, because what's coming next is greater than what you see right now." Because after that would come the ascension, and then the Holy Spirit, and a new way of relating to God, where it's no longer about touching, but about believing, no longer about seeing, but about trusting. And in that moment, Mary was not being rejected. She was being prepared for a faith that would no longer depend on what is visible, but on what is eternal. And maybe this is not just about Mary. Maybe it's about us. Because let's be honest, how many times have we tried to do the same? To hold on to what we feel, to what we understand, to what we can see. We want God to respond the way we expect, to feel the way He used to move the way we want Him to. But there are moments when God allows things to not feel the same. Moments where you don't feel Him the same way. You don't understand things the same way. You can't control what's happening anymore. And then we start asking, where are you? Why did everything change? Why doesn't it feel like before? But maybe it's not that God has stepped away. Maybe He's doing the same thing He did with Mary. He's changing the way you relate to Him, because there is a kind of faith that depends on what you see, on what you feel, on what you can touch. But there is another kind of faith, a deeper one, a faith that learns to trust, even when it doesn't understand, even when it doesn't see, even when it doesn't feel anything. And that is where many of us stop, because we want to go back to what we know, to what feels comfortable, to what we can control. But God does not always take us back. Sometimes He takes us deeper, beyond what we understand, beyond what we feel, beyond what we can explain. And in that process, there is something we have to learn, to let go, to stop holding on, to trust, even when we don't have all the answers. Because maybe you're in that kind of moment right now, a moment where you used to feel God clearly, and now you don't, where everything used to make sense, and now it doesn't, where you used to see answers, and now there's only silence. Maybe you're praying, and nothing seems to happen. Maybe you're waiting, and you see no response. Maybe you're trying to understand God, but everything feels more confusing than before. And that's hard, because we want clear answers, visible signs, immediate confirmation. But faith doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it grows in the silence. It becomes stronger in the waiting. And it goes deeper when you choose to trust without having everything figured out. And that is where many people think God is gone. But He's not. Maybe He's just leading you into a deeper faith. Because sometimes we want to touch what God is teaching us to believe. And that's the point. It's not about having everything under control. It's about trusting the one who does. And if today something stirred inside you, don't ignore it. Because understanding this is not just about learning a story. It's an invitation to trust in a deeper way, to let go of what you're trying to control, and to start believing even when you don't see everything clearly. So today, we don't want to stay silent. We want to respond. And if this message reached your heart, you can do it with a simple phrase, but a powerful one. Jesus, teach me to trust you more. Write it in the comments. Make it visible. Not as a tradition, but as a decision. And if this video spoke to your life, subscribe to the channel. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We seek to truly understand them. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share this video with them. Because there are people trying to understand God, but they just need to see Him from a different perspective. And if you want to keep discovering stories like this, we've left more videos right here on the channel, where every story reveals something deeper, not just about the Bible, but about the heart of God. Because sometimes, what we cannot touch is exactly what we need to believe. Until next time, may the peace and light of God be with you always.